there. Oh, I'm so glad you joined me today because I brought 2 books. I always bring 2 books and I read them when we talk about them together. And I think you're going to like these books. You know, I went to the library a few days ago and I really looked at a lot of books. And these were the 2 I picked that I thought you would enjoy today. So for those of you who are new to our show, I am the book lady, and I bring 2 books, and I read them, and then we talk about them a little bit. Books are fun, and I hope that you find these 2 books fun. The first book we're going to read today is May's First Day of School. Have you ever had a first day of school? Do you remember it? I remember my first day of school. I was a little bit nervous, but I was also kind of excited. I was starting to feel a little bit grown up. Well, this is May's first day of school, and it's by Kate Berube, and I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing her name correctly, but she wrote the story and she did the illustrations. Remember, that's the grown-up word for the pictures. You're going to like this book. Okay, here we go. May's first day of school. Today is May's first day of school, when her mother said, "It's time to get dressed." May said, "I'm not going." When her father said, "Eat your breakfast," May said, "I'm not going." And when her mother said, "Put on your coat," May said, "I'm not going." Now, May, that's enough, said her mother. On the walk to school, her mother told her all the fun things she would find there. Things like class pets and great big libraries. I like libraries. And long, wild recesses. But on the walk to school, May thought about all the things that could go wrong. Things like, what if the other kids didn't like her? And what if she was the only one who didn't know how to write? And what if she missed her mother? When they got to school, there were a lot of other parents and kids outside. May's mother said, "Oh, hello! How are you? Today is May's very first day of school, and what a beautiful day it is." "Well, isn't that wonderful?" said a man. "But where is May? May, where are you?" And May answered, "I'm not going." May wondered if she could live in this tree. She thought maybe she could. There was a mossy spot she could sleep on, and she had a whole lunchbox full of food to eat. Then May heard some rustling. "Hello," said the small girl. "Hello," said May. "Rosie, come down from that tree right now. School is starting soon," called the man from down below. "I'm not going to school," said Rosie. "Me neither," said May. "Would you like a cookie?" Today is May and Rosie's first day of school, but they are not going. "Why aren't you going to school?" asked May. "Well, I'm not going because what if no one will play with me? Or what if I have to read and I don't know how? Or What if I miss my dad? Just then, they heard the rustling sound of someone else coming up. "Hello," said a tall lady. "Hello," said May quietly. "We're not going to school." "Oh, well, that's good," said the tall lady. "I'm not going to school either." And she settled comfortably into a spot on the bottom branch and gazed out through the leaves. "Who are you?" asked Rosie. "Oh, I'm Miss Pearl." "Well, would you like a cookie, Miss Pearl?" asked May. "Oh, yes, please." Today is May and Rosie and Miss Pearl's first day of school, but they are not going. "Miss Pearl, why aren't you going to school?" asked May. "Well, I'm not going because what if the kids don't like me? Or what if I forget how to spell Tuesday? Or what if I miss my cat?" May smiled at Mrs. Pearl and Rosie. "You know what? We're all afraid of the same things. I'm glad I'm not the only one." "Me too," said Rosie. And you know what else? You don't have to be worried about nobody liking you because I like you both." "Me too," said Miss Pearl. "And you don't have to worry about making mistakes when you're reading and writing. School is for learning things." "And if we lived in this tree, we'd miss our families anyway," said May. "Plus, we're out of cookies." A few minutes later, May's mother called up, "School's about to start." "Okay, here we come." Today is May and Rosie and Miss Pearl's first day of school, and there they go. Oh, isn't that a nice book? Did you ever feel that way? For those of you who have had a first day of school, were you a little bit nervous? Did you think other kids wouldn't like you? You wouldn't make any friends? Or I remember I used to move a lot when I was a little girl, and I went to a new school, and I did not know how to write cursive. You know, cursive? Like script? I didn't know how to write that because in my old school, we only printed. Oh, I was so nervous. I didn't think I would ever learn. But I did, because that's what you do in school. You learn. So I think this is a great book, and I hope that you enjoyed it. And everybody has those feelings, and some people have those feelings about going to a job. You talk to some grown-ups you know, and they might have a new job, and when they go, they're nervous. Whenever we're about to do something new, sometimes we get nervous, and we lose our self-confidence. You know, that your self-confidence is what makes you in your brain feel like, I can do this. I can do it. But for some reason, when it's a new school or a new job, what if and we say what if a lot. What if? Well, what if? No. Instead you say, I think I'll give it a try. So this was a fun book, wasn't it? Here is another one. Are we still friends? Yes. It's by Ruth Horowitz, and Blanca Gomez drew the pictures. And she draws pictures for lots of other authors and their books. And I think these pictures are very sweet. But it's about these two characters you see on the cover. You see them there and there. But there are two other characters in this book who are very important. Let's see if we can find who they are. Oh, and here's that cover. I think that's just so pretty, don't you? Those are apple blossoms on an apple tree. Are we still friends? Beatrice and Abel lived side by side with a low stone wall between them. Abel grew apples. Beatrice raised bees. Oh, they were the finest of friends indeed. And so were the bees and the trees. In summer, when honey filled Beatrice's hives, the hive is where the bees live and make their honey, she hollered, "Hello, Abel, you free?" And he crossed the low wall to help gather the sticky, sweet liquid. Honey. In autumn, when apples filled Abel's trees, he called, "Hello, bee, please?" And she crossed the low wall to help harvest the ripe red fruit. That works out nicely, doesn't it? In winter, the bees and the trees rested. So Beatrice and Abel rested too. Side by side, they spread crispy toast with apple butter and sipped warm tea with honey. Beatrice and Abel needed each other all year, but especially in springtime, when Abel's trees filled with flowers. Beatrice's bees needed flower nectar to make their honey. That worked out. Abel's trees needed bees to spread their pollen to make their fruit. Back and forth across the wall, the bees flew until one spring morning, whack! Ooh, Abel smacked into a branch. Ouch! The smack startled a bee. Zing! Ah! The bee stung Abel right on his nose. Well, across the wall, Beatrice heard Abel squeal. What a silly laugh, she thought. She laughed back. Was Bee laughing at him? Abel wondered. He rubbed his sore nose. Blasted Bee! Was Abel talking to her? Beatrice wondered. Don't you bellow at me, pie face! Pie face? Well, you're a fuzz brain, wormy gore. Fuzz brain? Back and forth, woo, the words flew, until Beatrice and Abel marched into their houses and slammed their doors behind them. There sat Abel, his hurt ripening like a big round apple. Pie face. I don't need her or her bees. Ooh, he's mad. And there sat Beatrice. Ooh, her anger buzzing like an irate insect. Fuzz brain. I don't need him or his trees. But outside, the bees continued their quiet business. Back and forth across the wall they flew, sipping nectar and spreading pollen, just the same as always. Abel scribbled a sign and planted it where the bees would see it. But the bees didn't care about that sign. The sign says, "No bees allowed." And Beatrice built a fence to keep the bees on her side. But the bees didn't care about that fence. Up in his attic, Abel gathered a jumble of junk. He piled it all on the wall. Down in her basement, Beatrice found a mishmash of trash, and she stacked it on Abel's jumble. Oh, they are making a mess. Sour apple, fuzz brain. And you know what the bees did? But Beatrice and Abel didn't care. Higher and higher they stacked and piled until, plunk, something slipped. Glink, something dipped. And with a clatter and a crash, the whole teetering mass tumbled into the bee yard. Oh, what a mess! In all that tangle, there wasn't a sign of Beatrice. "Hello?" Abel called. No answer. "Hello?" he shouted. Oh, where was she? Then he heard something. It could have been the bees or the wind in the trees, but it seemed to be coming from the pile. And it seemed to be saying, "Hello? Hello?" Abel called. "Hello?" At last, Abel found her. "Oh, hello, bee. I thought I'd lost you." "Hello yourself. I thought you didn't care." Abel offered a hand and helped her climb out. "I thought you were laughing at me," he said. "I'm sorry." "Well, I thought you were insulting me." "I'm sorry too." "Are we still friends?" Indeed. They looked at the yard. Ooh, what a royal mess. "I'll put everything in apple pie order," Abel promised. I'll help," Beatrice said. So side by side, they cleaned everything up. Back in Abel's kitchen, they spread crispy toast with apple butter and sipped warm tea with honey. "We're numbskulls," said Beatrice. "Mush brains," Abel agreed. They were the finest of friends indeed, and so were the bees and the trees. Just the same as always. Isn't that a wonderful book? And guess what? This is really special at the end of the book. There is a recipe how to make apple butter. Have you ever had apple butter? My grandmother used to eat apple butter all the time, and it was dark brown, and she'd spread it on her toast, and I'd think, what is that dark brown stuff she's putting on her bread? And then she let me taste it. Ooh, pretty good. It tastes a little bit like applesauce, but it's dark brown, and you can spread it. And if you buy it at the store, it's usually near the peanut butter and the jelly and the honey. And it has, I'm going to tell you what's in it. Lots of apples. And then some apple cider. And then some sugar. Oh yeah. And then some cinnamon. That's what makes it dark brown. A little allspice. Ooh, that goes in pumpkin pies too. And then just a little squeeze of lemon juice and some vanilla. Oh, you cook that up, and then you make sure it gets nice, and you want to use something so that you can spread that, and you put that on your toast, and let me tell you something. That's something good to eat. It's called apple butter. Ask your mom or dad if you can try apple butter. Now, do you know, my sister used to like peanut butter and apple butter instead of peanut butter and jelly. You might want to try that. But in this book, we learned something, and that is the bees and the trees. In other words, nature just keeps on doing. Those bees were coming over the trees, and the trees were making apples, and nothing stopped them. That beautiful relationship just kept on going. But Beatrice and Abel, because they were saying not very nice things to each other, and I don't think Abel meant to hurt her feelings, but she heard it wrong, and then it just, the word they use is escalate. What does escalate mean? It just means it got worse. And then they started calling each other not very nice things, mush brain. Yeah. So they figured out, what are we doing? When he couldn't find Beatrice under all that junk, Abel was worried. He was worried he might have lost his friend. And then he heard her voice, and he knew he'd found his friend. That's when they realized, we're being silly. We're friends. Let's go have some apple butter and some tea with honey. You know, some people put sugar in their tea, but some people like honey in their tea. They just want to sweeten it up a little. And if the tea's hot and you put a little bit of honey, it just melts right in there. It's very tasty. So I hope that you enjoyed this book, and maybe you will go to the library and get this book and read it again and again and again, because that's the special thing about books. You go to the library, you pick out the books you love, you take them home, and you read them, you enjoy them. Maybe you read them with your mom and dad. Maybe you read them to yourself. Maybe you don't know how to read yet, but you look at the pictures and you can almost make up the story. That's the beauty of books. And I hope that you will enjoy books the way I do. And I hope you will come back, because I'm going to bring you 2 more wonderful books. And don't forget, May's first day of school. She was nervous. Do you know, a long time ago, when the Book Lady started her show, The Book Lady, I was a little bit nervous. What if you didn't like me? What if you didn't like the books I brought? What if I started coughing? All these things were running through my head. And instead, I said, I hope they like me. And I think they'll like my books. And if they don't like my books, that's okay. We don't all like everything. And if I start coughing, I'll just put my hand over my mouth and say, excuse me, and get on with it. We all cough. So I just changed my attitude, right? And sometimes that's what you need to do. You know, I have twin grandchildren. And one of them saw all the kids jumping off the diving board into the swimming pool. And she thought she wanted to do that. But then, well, what if I look funny diving off the board? What if I hurt myself? What if I can't swim to the side? And all that stinking thinking. That's what I call it. Stinking thinking. It gets in your brain, and you got to take that out and say, I want to go off that board. So I'm going to try it. And I don't care what I look like. And I know I can swim to the side, and I'm going to be just fine. And she climbed up there, and she walked to the end of the board, and she looked, and she jumped, and she swam to the side. And we all hollered for her, and that was it. She'd done it. That was her first time off the board. She did it. And now she does it all the time and doesn't think it's any big deal. So sometimes we need to take that first step. So if you're going to a new school or you're going to school for the first time, don't be nervous. Well, it's okay to be a little bit nervous, but it's all going to be just fine. Take out that stinking thinking and put in that good, I can do it, your self-confidence. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you've enjoyed the book, lady, and that you will come back again. I will have 2 more books for you, and you can find me on YouTube. Do any of you do YouTube? You just type in The Book Lady. Until the next time, bye-bye.